Starship Vigilant, a Star Trek Adventures campaign.
Star Trek Adventures, Starship Vigilant, episode 44. This is As Many as Six Impossible Things, part 2. Today's date is the 13th of October 2021. So around the virtual table today, we have, can I start with you, Sarah Jane, please?
Yep, I'm playing Giara Prux. And it's been a while since I've played her, so I can't really remember very much about her.
Fine.
And I don't know what's changed since I played her last, you see.
Oh,
So
a bit.
feel free to fill me in.
I will.
How many arms did you have last time you played her?
Just out of interest.
What?
When did you grow that goatee?
Oh my gosh, she's still alive, which I suppose is something.
Yeah, technically she is, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
no.
yeah, technically. I think a stasis chamber counts, doesn't it? I'm pretty sure that counts.
I'm sure it does.
Yeah, you can communicate with a series of beeps.
Fantastic.
Do you know what? That do you know what? I love that.
That would have been really funny.
Okay, let's have. So, Karen, why don't you tell us about who you're playing today?
Yes, Karen, I am playing Kolish, the sort of chief security officer.
And thank you, Karen. And Mike?
Yeah, I'm Mike, and I'm playing Kaz, the ship's chief helms officer, helmsman and first officer.
And we will hopefully have Kevin joining us at some point, who will be playing David Osterhagen. Okay, so goodness me, where the hell to start with? Okay, so I'm going to go back a little bit just for the benefit of Giara. So, as I recall, Giara, last time Giara was around was, if you remember, it's come to light that the ancient beings in the Shackleton Expanse, which is the region in which you are adventuring, have become identified as a race called the Tilikal. The Tilikal are an ancient species who are responsible for all of the advanced technology that has been discovered on various planets during your travels. And things came to a head in the Candidate 3 star system, whereby a battle between Romulan forces and the ships from Narendra Station, including the Vigilant, the USS Thunderchild, the USS Bonhomme Richard, and one of the Klingon vessels were involved in trying to prevent the Romulans from gaining a foothold on the planet of Candidate, one of the planets in the system of Candidate 3, which was covered in Tilikal technology, and you had encountered a being called Assessor Tredic, who essentially had asked for your help in releasing the Tilikal from some form of confinement or some other place that they were in. During the course of this, you'd encountered a kind of a projection of one of these beings called, I think her name was Ash Tamara, who'd again pleaded for your help. And where we finished the season, kind of before we took our little break, was that the Vigilant had been on the planet, had been helping the Assessor, and in response to a plea again from Ash Tamara, then the Vigilant had basically disappeared from our universe and had ended up in another dimension, which this dimension has had some unusual properties. So the dimension you found yourselves in was, first of all, the Vigilant had no power, and you realised that this dimension had air or had breathable atmosphere in space. It had some form of gravity, and large crystalline structures floating about. And during the course of your time in this dimension, You'd managed chief engineer, i.e. Giara, had managed to, with her team, had managed to restart the warp engines by creating a harmonic change in a shield around the engineering space, which enabled you to regain some power. You'd also rescued a body. There was a body you encountered floating in this in space nearby, which was one of the Lormian species. The Lormians were from the planet Organ 3, which had ended up being pulled into the Candidate 3 star system and crashing into the planet you had been on previously. And this Lormian was amazingly alive, although kind of not responsive. And you'd also seen hallucinations had been appearing amongst the crew. So I think variously you'd seen your home planets and kind of forests appearing in corridors and all sorts of weird stuff going on. And once again, the image of Ash Tamala had appeared on the bridge, again asking for your help. And then at the climax of last episode, a different kind of phenomena had occurred, which resulted in the appearance on the bridge of a Starfleet officer by the name of Carl Elias, who was a member of the Vigilance crew who was presumed lost. He'd been on a Klingon ship that had been lost some months before, and he'd also appeared to you. And that's kind of where we left it. So I know that's a lot to take in. Have we missed anything, chaps, that you can remember? Anything important, anyway?
Not that I can think of.
Yeah, nothing fundamental.
Okay, so where we are at the moment is you are all gathered around. This crewman has reappeared on the bridge of the Vigilant, and as I say, the last time any of you had seen him is when he had shipped out on board the Klingon ship Mapool, which was certainly, from your perspective, months ago. And the Mapool had been reported lost. You can blame Kevin for that one. The Mapool had been reported lost. And as I say, the fact that he has now reappeared on your bridge, apparently alive, although certainly disorientated and confused by his situation, to say the least. So this is Carl Elias, and as I say, he was essentially he's a security officer from the Vigilance. So right, you guys are on the bridge. Over to you.
Sorry, let me log into Roll20.
Oh yeah, it's fine. It's just it's just an image of Carl Elias I've put up. I think can the rest of you see that? Okay.
I can see him.
Can you just refresh it? Yeah. Okay.
So he's just appeared on the bridge. I think I'm going to phaser to stun, but I'm gonna hold my phaser up just to.
Yeah, I'm drawing mine as well.
He's conscious. Is he standing there conscious?
Yes, he's appeared. If you recall, so whereas the image that you, the kind of vision of Ash Tamala you'd had was kind of incorporeal and kind of ghost-like. If you're from the previous times you'd seen her appear.
Yep.
He initially appeared. It was kind of almost like a cloud of smoke, I think was the way we described it, and it had like almost like a transporter effect, like a kind of sparkling. So what I'm trying to get at is that it looked different, and he has now materialized. So he's there, and he sort of looks around and is obviously somewhat perplexed. He obviously recognizes some of you. He won't recognize Giara because I think he left before Giara joined. Mm-hmm. He certainly recognizes Naismith, and he recognizes Kalish, obviously, because you were technically his boss. Actually, no, that's not true because he swapped with you, didn't he?
Yeah, so we probably would have passed one another, and maybe we would have given each other not a debrief, but like a handover or something.
Exactly.
So I might not have recognised him initially. So I will pull my phase out, and I will probably set the ship to red alert. Not red alert, to intruder alert.
Okay, that's absolutely perfect. So the bridge lights flick, and Naismith sort of nods at you from his command seat, and he stands and approaches Elias, who again is he's present, but he seems confused, and he looks around and he says, "Commander," and he looks at Naismith, and Naismith says, "Crewman, I think we should get you to sick bay, and then we'll talk." And he kind of, if you want to take him to sick bay, Kalish, probably again, you're probably more suspicious of him.
Yeah.
I mean, not suspicious of him, but again, you're right that it's hard to know what's true and what's not here.
Yes.
But he certainly seems to be physical, and if you kind of gently,
Okay.
put your hand on him to sort of, encourage him.
Yes.
To leave, he is definitely physical. He's corporeal. You can feel his. He's definitely there.
Okay. Cool.
And he will. Sorry, go on.
Didn't we have someone else zap in from another unit? No, it was the old captain, wasn't it? He was incorporeal for a while. And that's previous. Well, but run where we rescued him from.
Oh yeah, that was when he was on the. That was when he was on the Romulan ship, though. Remember, and it was a different. That was due to the. Well, I mean, having said that, actually, I know I apologise. There is some correlation because again, the reason that that was happening, because I think Kiara or Sarah Jane, you were around for that one. That was the one on the Romulan Warbird where, the crew had basically almost like phased out of existence, and it was down to the fact that the Romulan engine, the singularity in the engine, was reacting with the strange energies in the Shackleton Expanse.
That was it. Yep.
So it might be, this is all. Don't forget the Tilly Carl, as far as you know, either intentionally or unintentionally responsible for the energies in the Shackleton Expanse. So maybe not as unrelated as I might think. But okay, so Kevin, what would you like? Do you want to take him down to sick bay?
I will, yeah, and along the way, I'll if I bump into another security officer, I'll have them accompany us as well. I will probably ask all decks to just. I want to check to see if there's any other intruders. So I'll put a call out, and I'm sure they'd be reported if there was, but I'll tell people to keep their eyes open.
Spot on. Okay, so the you two march him down to the sick bay.
Yeah.
And if you give me a second, I think
Steve, I'm gonna as the ship's first officer, I'm gonna go with them.
Okay, so there's like you've got a procession of you. That's fine. Chief engineer, would you like to go as well? Just
I have the bridge.
You have the bridge. Yay!
Finally.
You have the finally. Yep, that chair looks quite inviting.
I'm going to crash it.
Believe me, you can do much worse than the last couple of weeks. Anyway, so I've just changed the image to the sick bay. So as you can see, the sick bay is a cosy little chamber on a Defiant class. So actually, so yes, Kiara, you do have the bridge. That's perfectly sensible because I guess Naismith will probably struggle. Or actually, no, Naismith says to you, he says, "Commander, I'll be in my ready room when you get word from Dr. Plume that Mr. Elias is able to answer some questions. Have yourself and all the senior officers join me in the briefing room, please, and bring Mr. Elias. Tell Kalish to bring Mr. Elias with her." And he then leaves the bridge and goes to his ready room, which is just behind the bridge. So, okay, cool. So you have the bridge, and meanwhile in sick bay. So Elias is, guided again, and he seems pliant to those of you who are accompanying him. In other words, he's he's definitely conscious. He's definitely aware of where he is and as he's walking through the corridors again, the Vigilant has a small crew, but some of the crew that you pass kind of do a double take as they see him, because of course, most of them have served with him since the ship started its mission, and so he seems to recognise the people that he passes. He acknowledges them, and again, there is a little confusion on both sides.
Steve, if he doesn't seem particularly forthcoming with information like himself, then I'll probably ask him the basic
perfect.
questions. Like,
what would you like to ask him? That's exactly right. So yes, again, he doesn't seem uncooperative. He's just kind of a bit, again, you might maybe understandably. So yes, go ahead. Please feel free to interrogate him as you see fit.
So
maybe leave out the blades under the fingernails for now. But
what about the pain sticks?
Yeah, the pain sticks are for later.
We can work up to it. I'll ask him. Where have you come from? Where have you been? What's the last thing you remember?
The last thing I remember is I was on the pool with your former crewmates. There was some kind of anomaly. I wasn't on the bridge. I don't really recall. You see, this place, it has no physical dimensions as we know them. We're kind of imagined here by the Tilikal, and he sort of drifts off a little bit, and he says, next thing I know, after the anomaly or whatever it was, I'm no scientist, but whatever it was, next thing I remember is I kind of saw I could sort of see echoes of you here. And then I'm here. This place seems to have no time. Is different. It makes no sense here to me. What's the date? Sir, what's the date?
I was going to ask him the exact same question. So I will obviously give him the star date as we know it.
Exactly, and he again is confused. He says that seems wrong, but it seems maybe right. Minutes seem like hours to me. Days could be seconds. I don't really know what I'm experiencing. And then he kind of drifts off a little bit. And again, he just seems confused. Again, maybe understandably, but he's not he's not growing tentacles or anything weird. But he seems almost kind of he's not out of. I mean, I guess out of it is a way to describe it. But
what a shame! What a shame we don't have a full-blooded Vulcan who could give him a mind meld. Well, actually, probably Kevin would like that too much.
Yeah, he probably would.
So with as much empathy as a Klingon could muster, which probably isn't much, I'll just tell him to sort of
tiny little bit. Tiny little bit.
I'll tell him, hang in there. The doctor will check you over. I'm sure you're fine.
I'll growl behind I'll growl, easy, Lieutenant.
So, as this unlikely procession then enters the sick bay, Dr. Plume is obviously is standing at a console. And, yeah, I know, weird. quick, arrest him!
Intruder alert!
He kind of says, This doesn't seem. He seems. I mean, obviously he's slightly confused, but he says, "Sergeant, is that Mr. Elias back with us?"
It would appear to be.
Do I need to know what's going on here, or should I just perhaps examine him? He says, sort of looking at the guy's, slightly spaced out expression, and so he guides him gently to a bio bed, and come on, Mr. Elias, you park yourself here. Let me just take a look at you. And he pulls up a chair next to him and begins to run a scan. So you see on the old overhead projector. That's not the right word, but you know what I mean. Gets a flip chart out. It's you see the scans again. You know enough about this equipment to know that he's just doing a bio scan. And after a couple of minutes, he kind of turns his chair to you, and he says, "He seems okay, but there's some kind of I don't know, like an energy field. It's very faint, but there's some kind of trace that doesn't seem quite right. I'll probably need more. I'll probably need more time to run some scans, but he certainly, physically he seems in good shape. Obviously, he seems a little confused, but I guess that may be to be expected. And he kind of turns back to his instruments and is kind of humming and tutting and But as far as he can tell, he's at least physically okay.
Okay. Will he run a psychological exam?
I guess they will. I guess that will probably take a bit longer. Again, as Mike says, maybe I don't know. I don't know how I feel about the whole psycho tricorder nonsense that they had in the original series. I mean, I guess in terms of psychological eval, he'd probably have to, literally would have to sit and talk to him, and I guess they go through a thing. So all he's done initially. Sorry, go on, Mike.
I was going to say, if nothing else, a psycho evaluation is going to take a time to work up. Yeah. It's not going to be something you can do in 5 minutes.
Exactly. So he's done a physical exam, and he seems okay. As I say, he's mentioned the fact that there seems to be some sort of energy pattern thing going on, but it's vague and it's faint, but it's not normal. But he says, physically he's fine. In fact, if anything, he's in good. In fact, he says, I've actually compared. He says, I've run a comparison between my, the crewman's last physical, which was taken 2 days before he actually left us to join the pool. It's all part of the information I had to provide to my Klingon opposite number. And I would say that his physical evals are identical to that physical. So he's either, nothing has changed since the last time I saw him effectively.
Is there a sort of test to not quite carbon date him, but see if he is as old as he should be?
Oh, good question. What do you think?
Question. There is something else you can do. You can check if he's. It's going to be a bit weird, but resonating it, whether he actually comes from this.
Yes.
Universe, whether he's on the same frequency as everybody else.
Yeah, or if he's from a different dimension.
That's what I'm trying to get at. Has he got a goatee? It's an easy giveaway.
It says he's got a goatee. Yeah. Strangely, he has a goatee in here. He's wearing a cut off. He's wearing a cut off top for no apparent reason.
Looked in the mirror lately.
Yeah. And okay. So as far as the carbon dating, I mean that's actually a good point, because I'm sure that given, and again I am going out on a bit of a punt here, but given the understanding of quantum mechanics and subatomic particles that the Federation has, I think it's a fair assumption that he can run a test which, and I'm not going to.
Nothing else, you can carbon date his uniform.
Well, it's more that I reckon they'd have a. You've got the degradation of cells, haven't you? And I'm sure they would keep track of that, and so that they can check out certain cells and be like, well, his heart cells are, deteriorating at the rate we're expecting them to be, or what? Do you know what I mean?
I do. That is spot on, and I'm gonna give you guys a point of momentum just for that, because that's I like that plan. So I'm going to give you a 3 point of momentum there, just because I like your thinking. So basically, Kalish kind of makes the suggestion in her. She's not a scientist, as is clear, but and even Dr. Plume kind of turns his chair to her and goes, "That's good thinking, Sergeant. I'm glad to see my influence has been rubbing off on you. That's good. That's good. Yeah, that's good science." And he kind of taps his chin a bit and.
I look between the two of them and say it's almost as if they had the same mind.
Yeah, funny that. And basically Plume runs he goes off to his. So you're right. We take there is a cell degradation matrix that we record. We don't normally give it too much attention, but it is something that the quantum scanners pick up when we do the medical. And Well, isn't that interesting? So he says, he says, what date? And he says to Khalees, what date did you join the Vigilant, Sergeant? And you tell him. I'm not going to ask you to tell him specifically, but you give him the date.
Yep.
And he looks. He says, well, based upon my readings from those 2 days prior to Mr. Elias's departure, I would say that he is something like, and insert number of months since he disappeared. He is, months younger. His body is in fact younger than his birth date would suggest. So that would imply to me that either he's time travelled, but there's no indication of chronoton particles, which are usually detectable in such a situation. So it's almost like he's been outside of time. I don't know how that's possible, but certainly based on my readings, I would say indeed that this is indeed, crewman specialist Elias for sure. However, his body is not as old as it should be. Interesting. So, and Mr. Elias kind of looks a bit slightly worried at that comment, but lets it pass. So, does anyone have any other questions for him?
I think it's already been asked, but what he was asked that what was the last thing he remembered? Yes.
Yeah. So he said there was some sort of the Mapool encountered something, and I'm not going to dignify Kevin's scenario. I'm not going to pretend that I understand what was going on there. So I'm just going
to. They entered an area of space where he had strong hallucinogenic experiences. Something
like that.
Yeah.
And he, yeah, exactly. So all he remembers is there was some kind of phenomenon, anomaly. He can't really remember, but he knows that they encountered something, and then he remembers seeing images and echoes, and he vaguely remembers almost like a dream, and then he's here. And he says, he looks around again, and he says, sometimes I wasn't even sure if I was alive or real, but I'm just so glad to be back aboard a ship. And he kind of taps the bio bed, as if to reassure himself it's physical and it's real. And yes, again, sort of looks slightly wistfully, sort of drifts off a bit maybe again, but again, so the information you've gathered is he appears to be, as far as the doctor can determine, he is the real deal. Okay. However, it's almost his body is not quantum aged as it should be. So in other words, it seems like he's been out of time for a period of months, possibly.
Yeah. Cool. I think I'm going to keep a security detail on him just for the time being, for as long as possible. But if the doctor's okay to discharge him, then I guess we all head back to the for a briefing, right?
Splendid. Mike, have you got anything else you'd like to ask?
Not off the top of my head, no.
And how about you, Sarah Jane? Have you got anything you want to throw in? I know Kiara's on the bridge, but have you got any questions you'd like to ask?
What's going on in the medical bay? I just wanted
everything else.
Yeah, I'm just not quite sure. When he appeared, would we have wondered where he had appeared from, or would I have been spending this time scanning the nearby area looking for any ships that he might have?
Well, do you know what? That is a really good. That is a very sensible question, which nobody, even I didn't think of that one. So that's excellent work.
No,
no, that's fine. I've been told I talk too much, so you just jump in anytime you like.
Has anyone ever wondered where he came from? Oh yeah.
I'm just trying to.
Everyone accept this.
Given where we are,
yeah.
He could literally appear out of thin air, which of course is exactly what he.
Okay, but it's a good question, and again, bearing in mind that we don't. Again, I want to make sure that. So if I bring up just bear with me 1 second. I'm going to just show a picture, I think, so I can just explain. Yeah, I don't know why that's not coming up. It doesn't really matter. So okay, so this dimension that you're in, you've all experienced, or a lot of the crew have experienced some form of hallucination. As I say, for Kalish, she thought she was back in a Klingon temple.
Yep.
For Kaz, I believe Kaz, you were on the plains of.
As long as it wasn't the Elysian Fields.
No, but it was like the plains of your home planet.
Kate.
And there's been lots of weird stuff going on. This dimension is obviously, again, given that there's some sort of atmosphere, or at least there is, you can breathe outside without spacesuit on, or so it's definitely a weird environment. And having said that, I'm going to flick over to the bridge. Just give me 1 second. Having said that, that's a perfectly legitimate question. So what I'm going to get you to do is I'm going to get you to make a. In fact, what we'll do is we'll get one of the crew to do that for you. So if I take you back onto the bridge, just bear with me 1 second. There's one thing I don't know about Roll20 is dragging all these bloody tabs about to get things to change. But anyway, right. So there's the bridge. Okay.
Yep.
So there's Giara right in the centre seat there. Osterhagen is probably knocking around somewhere, but we'll get rid of him for now. Kalish is away, Kaz is away. So you're on the bridge, and you kind of, again, that very excellent question does come to mind. So what we're going to do is we'll get, just to remind you of how the thing works.
Oh, please, because I can't remember.
So if you go to your, on the right-hand side in Roll20, if you go to the tab called Journal, it looks like a little folded up newspaper.
Oh, yeah, I see. Yep.
If you go into there, you should see a character sheet for Giara. So if you click on the character sheet, it opens up a window which you'll see the bio and info tab gives you what are called traits. So traits are basically so in D&D they're like feats, I guess, right? They're special characteristics that Giara has. So some of them are racial. So the Trill trait means that you have some abilities there, but you also have some other bits and bobs.
I went through this earlier and have made a mental note to avoid mosquitoes.
Yeah, perfect.
But I think, do you want me to be using the character sheet?
Yeah, so if you go to the character sheet, and on the character sheet, then if you bring that up, what you can do is if you click on the button to the left of where it says her name, and you've got the two little squares, if you click on that, that'll open up her character sheet in a new tab in the browser, which might be a bit more useful.
Oh, okay.
So if you just click on those two little squares next to her name, and you should see it opens up a new tab in the browser.
Next to her name, where?
So if you've got the character sheet open you've got like a window which as I say, you've got the bio thing. Yeah. So if you just open up on where it says character sheet and then click on the little squares, it should then bring up a new browser window with your character sheet in it.
Perfect, and I can maximise this, so that's good.
Yeah, so then you can just see what you're doing. And then basically the way that again, it's a good idea to remind ourselves of how it all works, is that you, in your character sheet, what you do is you simply, so you have you have attributes and you have disciplines. So attributes are your physical abilities, your inbuilt abilities, and then disciplines are essentially your areas of expertise in terms of like skills. And when you make a roll, what you do is you can determine the attribute and the discipline you want to use. Obviously, you're normally going to try and use the ones that give you the highest number, because what you do is you add those two numbers together. So, for example, if in this instance, I'm going to get you to use probably insight and science, because you're going to try and make a roll. You're going to basically make a scan. Okay, so on this character sheet, the way to get it to work is if you click on insight, you should see that'll light up a slightly different colour.
Yeah, I've done that. So I've lit up insight and science.
Perfect. So then to the right of that, where it says dice roller, you've got the option to use focuses. So focuses are listed on the right-hand side, and they are areas of special expertise. And if you can, if Giara has something which is applicable, which is useful in a situation like this, then you can basically click on the box that says focus use. So again, it all depends if there's something. If you can convince me that she has a focus that would help her in making a scan, then that is perfectly fine. If not, because the way focus works is when you roll your dice, if either of the dice come up as being equal to or less than your discipline, then if you have a focus, then you immediately, that gives you like an extra success, basically, because it means that you're particularly good at that thing. But if you don't have a focus, it's fine. You just roll it as normal. And what you do is where it says task roll, you just make sure the number 2 is highlighted, which is the standard number, because it's the 2d20 system. So you normally roll 2 dice. And also you can, of course, momentum is the currency that we use, so that you can use momentum to buy yourself extra dice, and you can, give you other benefits. But for a simple roll like this, I would simply say, click Insight, Science, and then make sure you've got 2 dice selected. So what focuses has Giara got?
None that wouldn't be a bit of a stretch. Warp drive.
A bit of a stretch,
Electroplasma power systems. Transporters and replicators. Small craft, negotiations, and athletics.
Okay, well, I would give you a focus based on warp drive, because you're scanning for a ship, right?
Yes, warp.
Your aim here is to see whether Elias has transported over from a nearby ship, and given that this region of space, you know better than most of these. The crew, the situation here, because it was your work and your team's work that managed to isolate the Vigilance warp drive and enable you to restart the antimatter reaction, because the weird physics in this region. So I think it's acceptable that you're going to use your knowledge of warp drives to, because you know what you're looking for, basically. If a ship is hidden, you've got a better chance than most. And it is a bit of a stretch, but let's just go with it, because it's I think it does fit. So so you can tick on the box that says focus yes. And then also what's going to happen is the ship is going to assist you, but what you do is you make your roll first, and if you succeed, then the ship will get to roll a dice, because you're using the ship's sensors essentially to try and find a ship. So.
Okay.
Also, make sure you've got the right number for complication range and task roll. So the task roll should be a 2.
Quite right. And complication range should be 1.
Selected. Yeah.
So complications, just to remind you, are if you roll so as I say, with the task roll, the aim is I'll give you a difficulty. The number you're trying to roll under is the added value of your attribute and your discipline. So what's your insight?
At 10.
So, and what's your science?
3.
Right, so that means your target number is 13. So any dice that roll up 13 or less are considered a success.
Okay.
You have a difficulty. So in this case, the difficulty is going to be 1. And that's kind of the standard difficulty, because at this point you don't know that there is anything else affecting that. So there's no reason for that to be any higher. And as I say, then any dice or any successes that you generate above the number that you need. So if you were to get 2 successes, for example, then that extra success would immediately go to become a point of momentum.
Yep.
And you can either add the momentum to the pool. So at the moment, there's 1 point of momentum in the group pool. But you can also use it immediately. So, for example, you can spend that point of momentum if you want to ask for more information. Then you can spend that momentum, and that will give you that extra information that's needed. So, okay.
Yep. Just got to figure out how to roll the dice.
So you just click on the little dice image next to where it says task roll. If you highlight that, you'll see it light up. Click on that, and that will then roll the dice. Okay. And that will then appear in the Roll20 chat window, hopefully.
Lovely, 1 success.
Here we go. 1 success. Shows you've got 1 success.
So it shows you 2 dices. The first dice was 2 die. The first dice was a 0. You rolled a 16 on that dice, and the second one is a success because you rolled a 10. If you'd rolled a 3, a 1, 2, or 3, you would have had additional successes because it's below your discipline. Because you're using a focus, you get additional successes if it's below your discipline.
Correct.
Right.
And also, it's also worth mentioning that if one of the dice rolls a 1, then that again automatically gives you 2 successes, because that's like a critical success. So in sort of D&D terms, it's a critical success.
Yes.
Whereas a 20 is what you would consider a critical failure, and that's where a complication means that you may still succeed, but the complication means that something probably bad happens. Even though you might succeed at your task, something else will happen to complicate things, and that range can vary, as Karen says rightly. That can vary. So in certain circumstances, that range of complications can be bigger, which means it's more likely you'll get one of those. But that's the fundamentals. And again, that tells us that we've had 1 success. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to roll for the ship. So I'm going to go to the ship's character sheet, which I've got here. And the ship will roll 1 dice because the ship's assisting. So any assisting roll that is made. So you can also have crew members can assist you. So if you're doing a task. So when we did the so last session when Giara was we went through like an extended task to get the engines fixed. So Giara had her number 2, who's Alice. God, I can't remember her bloody name. It's so annoying. Alice McHugh, who's the sort of assistant chief engineer. She was rolling to assist because she was literally standing next to you doing stuff. And as long as you succeed at the task you're trying to do, then you may get extra success because the ship is, as I say, the ship is assisting you. So I'm going to use the ship is going to use. So the ship is going to use sensors, obviously, and science. So that gives it it's got a target number of a 10. The ship automatically is considered to have focuses. So with starships, because their systems are so varied, they are always assumed to have a focus applicable. So if it rolls below to that number, then you'll get the benefit of a focus. It doesn't have focuses named. It's just assumed that because a ship is a massively complicated, item, it will be able to fix it. So I'm going to roll 1 dice.
I do have technical expertise. It says whenever you attempt a task assisted by the ship's computers or sensors, you may re-roll 1 d20, which may be the ship's dice. So is that what you're doing at the moment?
No, you're going to. Well, I can re-roll that if you want. It's up to you. You can roll a d20, or I'll re-roll that one because the ship failed.
Yeah, I'd re-roll the one that you got 0 on because you've got a better chance of success.
Yeah. So if you want to go back and just roll, if you just go and change the number on your character sheet to 1 dice that you're rolling and just roll it.
Yep, do that.
Yes, well done. Yes, that's exactly what those are for. There we go.
Yay.
Huzzah. Huzzah and hurrah. So that's it. So you've got 1 success. So that means you've got a total of 2, which means you get a point of momentum, which goes towards the pool. I'm assuming, do you want to spend that, or do you want to just take the result and then add that to the group pool to be used later?
I think I'll just take the result and then add that to the group pool.
Perfect. Okay. So, brilliant. So that's a long-winded way, but no, that's good. Again, I like it. That's fine. Yeah, that's right. No, it's good. It's a good bit of experience just to remind you of how it all works. So, okay, so you're at your console, and again, Giara is a science-minded crew member. Obviously, you are a technical expert. So you basically meander over to you can walk over to the science console, and you basically run. This thing occurs to you. You think, So you go over to the console and you just run the scan yourself because again it occurs to you, and so you just do it because you know how to do it. And the sensor, the sensor display, kind of runs, and there's no indication of a ship that you can see. However, what you do, what this also tells you. So you're running your scans, and it also reiterates something that you discovered last time, which is that the Vigilant appears to be kind of operating at a slightly different frequency, for want of a better word, to the rest of this dimension. So you figured this out when you did your work last session to get the engines working. You had realised that there was something inherent in this realm that was preventing the reaction. So you kind of blocked it out, if you like. You put a shield around the warp core, and that allowed you to then get the engines restarted. Now you're scanning for ships, and as you're scanning, you're picking up. You again notice this background kind of EM field that you've noticed before. And as you're scanning, you also pick up something on the sensors that tells you that there's a different harmonic inside the ship. So although you haven't found anything externally to the ship, you've scanned around, and again, the sensors are behaving oddly because they're not, as we talked about this last time, that in normal space, the sensors are capable of reaching great distances. I mean, it's something ridiculous. Michael, correct me, I'm sure, but it's something like the long range sensors are capable of reaching up to like 10, 15 light years away.
Wow.
Short range sensors tend to operate within the solar system, so they're but still many AUs in diameter. But again, vast distant distances with kind of immediate result, and then you have short range sensors which are much more tactical.
Yeah, I'd probably only be scanning within transporter range. Yeah,
exactly. So in this, that's exactly right. So in this, you've kind of narrowed the field down, even though the sensors are not behaving as you're used to them behaving. You're pretty confident that your results, again, you're seeing what you've seen before. The kind of odd, there's odd energy patterns on the screen. There's things flickering, and there's these crystalline structures floating around as well, which, as far as your scans have seen so far, are fairly inert. But you once again pick up this, as I say, this different harmonic, and again, because your scan is short range, you suddenly realise there seems to be a source of that, or a different dimensional resonance or frequency on board the ship.
Yeah, I would. I'd use my comm badge and who's the most senior person of the rest of the team that's disappeared up to sick bay?
That'd be Kaz. So that's Mike's character.
Okay, well, I'd let them know via the comm badge that we've discovered this frequency. We think it might be coming from on board the ship.
So it's actually inside the ship, did you say?
Yeah, yes. As far as you can tell, yeah. So you could probably do. You could probably get the security, from the security to do internal sensors, but
yeah, can she just say exactly?
Do you want me to run an internal scan to see if we can narrow it down anymore?
Yeah, I think, as I say, I'm wondering if it's coming from the meaty boy.
Can you hear us discussing this?
Well, yeah, probably like, what? He says, I'm right here.
I can hear you.
Oh, that was internal monologue. Internal monologue. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, to be honest, yes. Let's not beat about the bush. Yeah. Okay. So you Giara can. There's probably a security. I guess there's a tactical, or she can. Yeah. There's a tactical person on the bridge. Let's assume. And you can just say you sort of go over to the tactical console, and you can just get whoever's sitting there to run. Because again, the internal scans. I mean, again, it's similar technology, but again, that's her speciality. So you say, crewman, run a internal scan. We're looking for this frequency, and you can provide her with the waveform. And sure enough, it comes back, and it's basically where Elias is. So then you report back and say, it seems to be coming from crewman Elias, who does look somewhat alarmed at this. But he says, but sir, I feel okay. I feel, I feel a little bit. I felt a little bit weird since I came back, but I don't feel ill. And he looks at you, sort of questioning.
So he let me get this straight. He's resonating at a different frequency to everybody else.
Well, he seems to be, yes. From you, and again, and don't forget, this is kind of what Plume gave you a bit of an indication of this, because Plume had said that there was something a bit.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, as I say, now it's the frequency he's resonating. Is it I'm assuming we know what, for what better our home universe resonates at.
Yeah, I'm guessing that's I'm sure that's the case.
Is he resonating at a different frequency, or are we?
So okay. Well, tell you what, why don't we? What we'll do
If
is
that makes
you lot are
if
going
that
to
question makes
reconvene.
sense.
It does, but I think you lot are on your way to the briefing room. So
Yeah.
let's reconvene in the briefing room because we need to have one of those scenes where everyone sits around and waffles on about that. Now, I know we had a conversation about this actually. So what I've done is I actually bear with. I'm just dragging things about again, but don't worry, it will become clear hopefully. So right, okay. So as we discussed, remember we talked about the briefing room. So this is the bridge here. This is the bridge, and so again in the this I found this 3D thing online where somebody had actually put a briefing room into that chamber that we liked. So you all convene in the briefing room, which is here, and so you come in, and once you're in the room, I guess Kaz, you probably page.
Yeah. Not thing. Just as I say, appraising of the situation with the frequencies. He's resonating at a different frequency to everyone else. We haven't decided, we haven't discerned whether it matches our home frequency or whether it matches the universe we're in.
That we don't know where he's come from.
The bubble of space, yeah, basically. Don't know whether he's from a parallel dimension or not. Well, yeah, that is true. But he might have had a shave.
Of course.
So we did discover a shaving kit in his
I feel like he may be a bit of a distraction at the minute. We still need to figure out where we are and how we can get out of here. Can you elaborate on that, Elias? What do you mean? Has this happened before to you? Have you been alone here, Elias, or with the rest of the Mapool with you?
May I make a suggestion? I'm not sure whether this is going to be out of character or in character. This sounds an awful lot like the area of space that Cisco met the Par Wraiths in within the wormhole.
Mm-hmm.
The time doesn't say it's a again. I'm only saying this because I'm not sure whether we would the time that the game is set. I don't know whether I can't remember whether whether we would have access to that knowledge. Characters would have access to knowledge, but it sounds a lot like Par Wraiths. Everything is it the Par? Oh, whatever. The wormhole, the wormhole beings, the wormhole aliens have what Elias is describing sounds an awful lot like what it was like for Cisco, because it was everything exists at the same time. Know what I mean?
And also, Cisco kept having visions of being in different places within his past, and we've also experienced that, haven't we?
Yeah. As I say, the only reason I'm saying it as an observation is because, again, I don't know whether our characters would have that access to that knowledge.
Yeah.
So maybe, yeah.
So Plume, Dr. Plume is he's going to enlist or at least ask for Giara's help in that he would like to try to anchor Elias's frequency to our frequency, because if anything happens to us, he might be lost from us again because he's on a different frequency. But that's beyond his technical know-how, so I think he's going to try and
lick your heels and wish for home. Just a thought, yet another random thought. Sorry, no, it was just the whatever her name was, the lady, the woman asked us, Tamara. She asked us specifically if we would come to help, and maybe that was. Now, if we said yes, then boom, we went. It's almost as if you're wishing to help, like the guy's saying.
Adapt a harmonic shield so that we can keep ourselves within the right frequency inside of the bubble.
If anyone looks over at Kolish, she's got her eyes squeezed closed with her hands out in front of her, and she's sort of muttering, "Latinum Batlev, Latinum Batlev."
Oak scratching post. Oak scratching post. Oak scratching post. Sorry, no, that's right.
Is Kevin on board?
Yes. Yeah, just popped up. Yep.
Someone scan him to see whether he's resonating at our frequency as well. You know what happens with characters who just just appear out of nowhere.
I could see my name in the ether. I was elsewhere. My name was.
You got a goatee.
Escape. Well, I heard warp core explosion. I thought, oh, best I pop in.
That's my cue.
That's my yeah. Yeah, this is something we were alluding to last time about because there was an issue with something to do with the mind, and I was going to get together the group that we had the last time we had we couldn't remember what we did, but the 4 mind characters, should we say, were doing something. Yeah, we couldn't remember what exactly they did, but it was something, and that seemed pertinent to do again.
It was like a mind meld orgy, wasn't it?
Yeah. Like
mind
dog
meld
in
tea
space.
party.
It's like dogging in space. Only on Thursdays. Sensitives. Yeah, that rings a bell. Yeah, could be a good chance to get some DNA. I mean, do a mind check. Yeah, this certainly rang a bell. The how. I'm not sure how it was done, but there's because we read the whole thing before doing what we did, but can't for the life remember what we did or why we did it. What should I do? I'll explain why I was late. Sian was going to get halfway home and realised the phone she had with her she had 3 phones rather than her normal 2, so she had to go all the way back to London to give the phone to the woman who she picked up off accidentally, and they got stuck in the pub. That's the excuse she gave me.
Stuck in a pub.
They're sticky places, but they're very hard to get out of.
Oh, they are. Especially when it's on expenses. Yeah, she picked the phone up and she's like, "Oh, I don't know a Tim Smith. Who's Tim Smith? Oh, I can't actually get the phone. It's not my phone." So yes, it was quite amusing. And the one night, all the other kids go out, so it's like, oh shit. Despite having 4 cars in the house. It's on page 110. Mind meld requirement Vulcan. You'll undergo training, blah blah blah. This will require a task with a difficulty of at least 1. This can be opposed by the unwilling participant. If successful, your minds link. Your participants share thoughts, memories. Momentum can be spent to gain more information or form deeper telepathic exchanges. The link goes both ways. It's tiring, hazardous. Communications can result in pain, disorientation, and all that stuff. Okay, so I'm assuming that. Oh god. Task wrong. Insight and science. Insight and medical? Insight and medical. That sounds about right. What's that? If it was just zero, I'd just caress his head. So I'll either narrate this as I'm going along or just tell everyone straight afterwards. Of the same person or. So the actual image of the multiple versions of this woman, did it look like some really bad Top of the Pops 1970s effect, or did it look like the effect you get when you look at yeah, or is it or is it like 2 mirrors pointing at each other? No. It's in Bohemian Rhapsody, I think, at one point. They just
Yes.
so it's is that then an example of multiple layers of parallel universe, or a fractured elements of these of different hertz? So is it possible you're actually seeing the same person in the different frequencies? Let's say, for argument's sake, there's 10 frequencies, and you're seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 of her, or is it it's what he's seeing, isn't it? So he's seen this and experienced it. So that's his mind.
Could also be that she's a bit of a hive mind, like the Borg or something like that.
Yeah, but would you see them overlapped, or would you see going back to the Bohemian Rhapsody example, the hive mind? Would you see her in 4 images as they're singing one moment? So you could get the 4 of them on screen, separate but the same, or would you see that as that overlap clone,
like standing between 2 mirrors?
Yes. So it's almost his mind creating a metaphor for this overlaps of parallel dimensions. Yeah. So in terms so we know that parallel dimensions exist, right? Do we know of how they work? So is because so the analogy would be midway through Crisis on Infinite Earths, the Spectre collapses the DC universe, and you're seeing in that moment Earth. It's kind of like that 70s spiral of images behind him. The other one is the film with Jet Li called The One, in which he jumps at universes, and that's seen as slightly different effect, as they are parallel universes, but they are a little bit further apart with a gap in between, with like a null area in between. Because it was an early episode of Star Trek in which that's where I remember the vibration thing, in which they're vibrating at different hertz, and they had to vibrate Kirk at different hertz to enter that universe.
We're still here.
Oh, it's just bugging out.
You nerded out there for a second there. What were we saying?
Yeah. It's
Prison or prism?
basically the idea was that it's, I suppose, like the Phantom Zone or something like that.
So you're actually seeing fractured images of her. Okay, so if we use that prism idea, is it possible then that what we're seeing is a fractured universe, and in which that you're seeing everything through that prism, i.e. hundreds of thousands of different people? Is it a case that there is something at the center of the universe that is causing that fracture, which is why only she escaped to let us know? So what we need to do is figure out what's causing that. What, I guess, an energy source is causing that fracture. Wasn't there some creature creating some bizarre energy? Wasn't there something creating a strange energy source that we found in one of the adventures? I'm just wondering if we run, if that's still in the computer, if we look at that energy source, that's if that exists in this area. I can't remember what you call it. I think Mike knew what then. It was around that there was a station in the Shackleton Expanse we went to see that we lost contact with, and there was some kind of energy source around that.
Was that the one that was it was draining the power out of the warp core?
Yes.
The creature was living in this, or whatever it was in the sun.
And it wasn't a Targaryen, that thing they're using in Discovery. It was something else. I'm just wondering if, in fact, if that is what's causing this fractured universe, and therefore
we need to get the ship moving. We need to get the ship up and running again. That's first. Yeah, but we got power, but we don't have movement.
We need to try to stop ourselves from being affected by the different frequencies. So possibly with a harmonic shield, if we can maybe adapt our shields so that it can modulate the frequency back to our own. I don't know how that will affect Elias, though.
Elias is gone.
He's vibrated out of this. So he's
has
here,
he?
but he's not here. I guess he's here, but he's not here. He's vibrated out of our current perception because he was the guy that was outside the ship, wasn't he?
No, he just appeared out. He was the one that appeared out of nowhere at the end of the last session.
Right. So what happened to the guy that we pulled out of space? I guess then what we should do is look for a method to scan the vibrations higher and lower than our current one, looking for a signature, his comm signature.
So almost as if we were on a space station.
Create a location.
Yes, knowing that worked for the warp core, I wonder whether we need to try and somehow modify our shields to make it so that we can have a field like that around the entire ship.
Just expand the shield, expand the field.
Yeah.
Just a thing. Wouldn't it be about basically if I remember rightly, the warp field operates on a frequency. We just match the frequency to the one we've got in this universe. Should give us movement. Got that from the bridge.
What a great question.
Well, at least you don't have to worry that you might have COVID.
Yeah, that question's been taken away.
You're not going to get any sympathy from us because we reckon you read a Chinese last night. You're going to edit the bat anus out.
What if we just say bat anus sort of randomly for the rest of the session?
You don't want them to get the wrong idea.
Oh. Definitely edit it out.
300 joke, but...
Yes. Yeah, so essentially it would just be a sort of a monitoring case and then feeding back to say, oh no, a little to the left, a little to the right, sort of thing.
Okay. Insight. Electroplasma power systems. Transporters and replicators. Small craft.
Yeah.
No one wants to die, so yeah, okay. Yep. This is the task roll up to 3, isn't it? Okay. Yep, have done. Sure, okay. Yes, I can. Yep. So I roll my dice now.
Very nice.
Oh.
But a complication.
A complication? Oh.
Can you not re-roll the complication?
I re-roll that one. Okay, hang on a second. Let me change that back to 1.
Oh.
So is that 5 successes?
It is. Yeah, it sounds good to me. Oh.
Oh.
Yeah. Come on, the ship. The ship is absolutely terrible at rolling. I don't think the ship has ever helped us out.
No. Yeah, no change there then.
Complication. Perfect. Thanks, ship.
Oh. I'm going to kick it.
Should we get out and push?
Yeah, I reckon.
Yeah, let's do that. There is air out there.
That would be suboptimal.
So we'll buy off the complication.
What about our boy Elias? Any sign of him?
So, I think I will attempt to scan the ship. So let's say, for argument's sake, we run at 35 hertz. I'm going to run at an increment of 1 hertz for 10 above and 10 below initially.
Well, we did take readings of his frequency, so we should already know what his frequency is.
Yep, that's going to be unfocus. I don't think I've got a focus worth using. No, there you go. 1. And the location. Where they are.
Could I suggest? I think Giara would know best. about how to do if it's possible. Using the transporter as almost like a fishing line,
I was just about to say that actually.
and sort of coupling his DNA with this frequency and seeing if we can sort of put out a net, or almost like a fishing net with the transporter, and seeing if
idea. Transporters is one of my focuses, so
wow, that's exactly it.
Definitely into that.
I may have his DNA on me.
have to get a movie. Okay, can we go on? Wait. What I was thinking was because this bubble we're in is operating on a different frequency. If we change the frequency or the harmonics of the warp bubble, and that hope to match the universe or the bubble match area of space we're in, and hopefully that might get some traction. It doesn't work. Think of it. All right, guys, think the warp drive works. I'll sit there and I believe the warp drive works. Believe it. It's yeah. I know how we're moving it. Faith of the heart. Sorry. Yeah, so do I. I sort of wish I'd swerved it. But never mind.
So this is in a similar way to Pratchett's Dragons, or to is it the astral or ethereal plane in which in D&D, in which you simply think of where you're going and you fly through the. Or is it the ethereal plane? You do that in D&D. So in that case, surely should we not get the entire crew together and explain this to them and get everyone to think that we are back at Narendra Station? Is that worth a punt?
Could you lead us in some sort of meditative group session?
Group
so that we're all on the same sort of wavelength, you know?
Is that something that Naismith would? We probably wouldn't, but is that something that Naismith would think's a good idea? He's a motivated speaker. Yes. Okay. Leave the idea out as a an esoteric idea.
They'd probably come to bring my Latinum Bat'leth. Okay, yeah. So scans on the ship. Then is it something you recognise? Could you remind me of what I would? Yeah. Well, my best one's a daring, fitness, and presence. Big control, wouldn't it? Control and security. Yeah. No, not really.
It's good because you only got a one.
Yeah, that makes it first. Okay. I will say to Kaz, could we make a slight deviation and see if they match it exactly? Yeah.
I'd sort of like slide the ship to the side a bit. 4 degrees port yaw.
Okay, do we fly straight into it? I feel like we need to merge with it, right?
That's not a bad idea.
Is that just because I've watched this much? Like, I don't think they would think to do that initially, would they?
Yeah. Means I'll swing the ship round onto a direct intercept, otherwise known as ramming. So do I, sir. Brace for impact.
Okay, and what are we visualizing? What should we visualize?
It's not there. It's not there. It's not there.
Airbags. Fucking big airbag.
Before we do, just before you give us our ultimate destruction, is there some sort of pulse we can fire upon it that wouldn't do us harm? So if it fires in response, we can see what effect it has on us and what effect it has on them.
Photon
torpedo. No. Could we? I was going to say hit it with hit it a tractor beam, but set it to repulse. It push us away rather than.
Yeah. Because all we want to see is if it can affect us, right? Yeah. Lovely.
You forgot to put it on repulse, didn't you?
Yep. Okay, perfect. Yeah, okay.
There's a thought.
So we might be seeing the edge of this bubble or whatever then, right? So if we
Yeah,
read our
exactly.
reflection,
That's
we
what
might
I was
break free.
thinking.
As we do this, Steve, can I point out that it is the
Unless directly instructed by
150th
the captain not
anniversary
to.
of Through the Looking Glass?
To say, I'll keep this course unless directly instructed by the captain to veer off.
Yeah, so we can blame Smith if it goes wrong. Captain, would it not be better to send, say, one of the shuttles out first to test this theory, and if it is a mirror version of ourselves, a shuttlecraft from them will come out.
I slammed the brakes on. Yeah. Activate transport now.
Yeah, so it was to configure the transporters to search for both his DNA sequence and his frequency, and see
Like
if we
a
can
fishing
cast like a loose net to see if we can pick up his bits.
and the rest of them. So, yeah, I'll do that if that's okay. Okay. Yeah, difficult. What's the difficulty?
Yeah.
Yes. What's the complication range for this one? Okay, and I'm rolling 2 dice.
Hey.
No smoke, no mirrors.
I haven't seen me yet.
One step we did forget to do is to create some kind of Faraday cage to put him into to stop it happening again from him.
Ah, yes.
Just a thought. Can we scan and get a lock on her?
No, that's cool.
Enjoyed that.
Great. Really enjoyed it. I've missed it. It was really good.
Cool.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Starship Vigilant. Kaz was played by Mike. David Osterhagen was played by Kevin. Kolish was played by Kerin. Our music is Fanfare for Space by Kevin MacLeod, which is licensed under a Creative Commons license. See you next time.